Yes. What?
You're hot. That's why I've been pushing my. Did you hear what I said about you? Did you hear what I said about you?
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. So, good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for your patience. Sorry for the delay here. Just a reminder, if you have not already checked in with our supervisor of the checklist here to get your voting card, please make sure you do so. Thank you again and welcome to the 2025 School Board Deliberative Session. We really appreciate you being here. You are you're the reason and how we govern by becoming the legislature, essentially, when you're here. So my name is David Plord. I am a resident here in Farmington for 4 years, and I am the school and town moderator. And so before I start the meeting, I'd like everybody to stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, so just some reminders. First thing, this is my first ever moderated meeting, so your patience is greatly appreciated. But as we start, I just want to make sure that everybody's got their cell phones on mute. And if you do need to take a phone call today, please go out into the hallways here and take that call. In case of an emergency and in case we have to evacuate, you've got fire exits to the back of the building and then also to my left here in the front. And if we have to evacuate, and let's all congregate in the small parking lot by the football field so that first responder vehicles can make their way through without any obstruction. Again, if you haven't gotten your voting card, I think we've got a pretty small crowd. It looks like everybody's got their cards. Only registered Farmington voters will be able to vote today in the session. And just a reminder, there is no smoking on the school ground. In this meeting, if you feel the need, you're going to have to leave the school grounds. I will be using the following moderator rules, which you may already be familiar with. So these are the Farmington Town Meeting Moderator Rules of Procedure. Unless changed by the voters at the meeting, the town moderator will use the following rules of procedure to conduct the town meeting. The moderator will not follow Robert's rules. I will use these general rules of procedure, which main purpose is to keep the meeting in motion and not getting bogged down by procedural quagmires. By majority vote, the voters can overrule any decision that the moderator makes and any rule the moderator establishes. A voter can raise such a request by a point of order. The moderator will take articles in order as they appear on the warrant. Unless the moderator announces the intent to take the articles out of order, we will not be taking them out of order today. The moderator will consider each article as follows. The moderator will announce the article number and the title of the article. The moderator need not read the full text of the article, but for the adoption of the article. If the motion is seconded, the moderator will recognize a member of the Board of Selectmen or the petitioner to explain the article. We need, if anybody can't make it to this microphone, we should have a wireless microphone available. No one may speak unless he or she has the floor. Except for points of order, the moderator will not recognize speakers unless they are standing at or holding one of the microphones. Each speaker must provide his or her name, preferably street, that you reside on. Even if the voter does not have the floor, a voter may speak to raise a point of order, to challenge a moderator's ruling, or to overrule the moderator. The moderator will allow only one motion of the floor at a time. There are only two exceptions to the rule. That is, if somebody raises a point of order, and if a voter has the floor, the voter may make a motion to amend a pending motion or a motion to call the question, which will end debate. The moderator will not accept negative motions, which basically means no vote to affirm something, like I move that we not adopt the budget. We will not accept motions like that. Motions to call the question, limit debate, and require a 2/3 vote. If passed, these motions stop debate on all motions. However, I will allow, when the question is called, if there are people in line to speak, those people in line will have the ability to speak their piece prior to calling the question. Non-voters may not speak at the meeting without the permission of the voters, except for any experts. I don't think we have, or we have none acknowledged here that are out-of-town officials. All speakers must be courteous, be respectful. We're all a community here, so let's do that. If anybody, and I'm sure nobody's going to behave in a disorderly manner, the moderator will give you a warning, essentially, and if any behavior persists, you may be asked to leave the meeting. All questions or comments should be directed towards the moderator, and then I will choose the proper avenue as to answer that question. Each speaker may only speak once until everyone has spoken. If you are at the microphone, I will allow for one additional question while you are there as a follow-up. Moderator may determine the method of voting except as determined by law. However, any voter who doubts the accuracy of any non-counted vote may require the moderator to determine a vote by a counted show of cards or a counted standing vote with cards. Motions to reconsider an article may be made anytime after the vote on the article and should be made by a voter who voted on the prevailing side of the vote to be reconsidered. However, the following limits. This is going to be fun. May apply to the reconsideration of the article. We don't have any bond issues, so I will leave that one out. Optional restriction. Voters may postpone reconsideration of any article at this meeting by voting to restrict reconsideration of the article in accordance with RSA 40:10. If the meeting passes such a motion, then the article cannot be reconsidered until a reconvened meeting held at least 7 days after the date of the original vote. Finally, the final reminder is since any rule of the moderator or decision of the meeting can be reversed or changed at any time prior to the end of the meeting by a majority vote of the meeting, there is no rule that can be adopted that can absolutely prevent the reconsideration of an article. Okay, any questions? Okay, so before we get into the articles, I'd like to have everybody from the front of the room, from my right to left, introduce yourselves and your position.
Jessica Parker, School Board.
Nicole Doyle, School Board.
Sharon Johnson, School Board.
Joel Shagnon, School Board Chair. Benji Campbell, Business Administrator.
Giselle Pomeroy, Superintendent Designee.
Hold on, that's not working.
Brianna Batisco, Town Council.
Kathy Seaver, School District Clerk.
Maggie Price, Budget Committee.
John Whitney, Budget Committee. Frank Hickman, Budget Committee. John Aaron,
Thank you. Okay, Farmington, the inhabitants of the local school district of Farmington Local School in the state of New Hampshire qualified to vote in school district affairs are hereby notified that the annual school district meeting will be held as follows. The first session of the annual meeting is our deliberative session happening today, February 1st, 2025. We started a little late, but around 9:30 a.m. The location is a high school gymnasium at 40 Thayer Drive, Farmington, 03825. The second session of the annual meeting will be the official ballot voting, and it will take place on March 11th, 2025, from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. The location of that will be at the Farmington Town Hall at 531 Main Street. All right, as we start this meeting and get into the articles, I'm going to remind you that if you are going to make a motion or a second or a point of order, if you're going to address the moderator in any way, please state your name loudly enough so that we can record it with the clerk. I certainly don't know everybody here, so I can't call you by name, so we appreciate that. All right. So we're gonna go to Article number 1, which is choosing district officers. To choose the following district officials, there will be school board members, 2 positions for a 3-year term, a moderator to be selected, 1 moderator for a 1-year term, a clerk, 1 position for a 1-year term, and a treasurer, 1 position for a 1-year term. Okay, I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Second, Tim Brown. Thank you. All right. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. Article 2, place reports on file. Shall the district accept and place on file the reports of the auditors, agents, committees, and officers chosen to conduct the prudent affairs of the district? Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second?
Any names, guys? I can't watch if I can hear. Who was the second?
Good. Okay, is there any discussion on the article? Seeing none, we will go to vote. Article 2, place reports on file. Shall the district accept and place on file the reports of the auditors, agents, committees, and officers chosen to conduct the prudent affairs of the district? All in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Article 3, operating budget. Shall the district raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amounts set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session, for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $17,312,926. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $18,371,151, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action by the district or by law. Or the school board may hold 1 special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of revised operating budget only. A majority vote is required. The estimated tax impact of $7.94 per thousand. The school board recommends this appropriation 3-2. Budget committee recommends this appropriation 6-1. Note, Fund 10 equals $15,613,288,000, which is the regular operating budget. Fund 21 equals $499,638, which is expenditures from food service revenues. Fund 22 equals $1,200,000, which are expenditures from federal and special revenues. Default implemented is $16,671,513, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the district or by law. Now I'm going to have Mackenzie address the amendment.
Yes, management is proposing an amendment to this article as well as a statement that we'd like to be read, that the budget itself here will be offset by revenues of $7,843,183.18, inadequacy aid and other federal, state, local revenues, and result in a tax rate of $7.53. This also means that our MS-27 document that you all hold here, or was made available on that table, is incorrect. The correct total appropriation between all 3 monetary articles would result in a taxation of $7,797,924.82. So that is just the statement that I'm reading, and it rings true for Article 3 and 4, as well as a warrant Article number 6. Corrects the monetary portion on our MS-27 form.
They can't hear.
Check, check.
Can you hear?
Hello. Okay. So, management is needing to state on this warrant article, in relation to this warrant article and the next couple monetary warrant articles.
Mac, do you want to use mine and I'll share Jess's?
Okay. This is turning into a microphone.
Will it fit though?
I'm gonna need to.
Test. All right. We're good. We're good.
Well, just in case.
Okay.
We thought we were good earlier too.
Yes, agreed. Thank you. Okay, still working. All right. So to start over, the moderator turned this over to us just so we could make a statement as a management team and propose an amendment to the article. The statement is that the MS-27 paperwork that you have over there is incorrect. At the end, it says there's $0 expected to be raised from taxation. That is not correct. The amount that should be there is $7,797,924.82, as there's no other offsetting revenue. In addition, we just want to reinforce that the operating budget is offset by revenues of $7,843,183.18, and essentially what is coming from state, federal, local revenues such as adequacy aid and other expected revenues by the school district. This actually results in a tax rate of $7.53 as our estimate for the following year. The Article 3 reads estimated tax impact of $7.94. So the proposed amendment would be to change this to $7.53 per thousand. I can't. No, we're proposing the amendment.
I have to put forth a motion for the article as written originally first. Excuse me?
The tax rate is set under the sole authority of the Farmington School District School Board. So it would be the school board that would take a vote to amend recommended tax rate and ask that the warrant be correct. The legislative body does not set the tax impact as recommended. Much of the school board.
Okay, Jaden, I'm talking into the audience mic at the moment. Can you adjust the level? Testing, 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 testing. Am I getting louder back there? No. Still talking into the audience mic. Testing. Hear that. Testing, testing, testing. Yeah, I know, it's pretty faint. I know. So the mixer that controls all the mics is not working. So we have to turn them all on and then you get the feedback. So it's trying to get the levels right, find the right microphones, using a handful of controls Still talking in the audience, Mike, Jaden. Did you? Well, I yelled. So.
Yeah.
How am I sounding in the back? No.
I'll turn it over to you.
Somebody said better?
We have to, the article as written has to be put on the floor, and then an amendment has to be made.
Right.
Testing.
Right. That's
So
what
that's
we're
what he's waiting on. This one's coming.
Testing. Testing.
Can you use my mic that I gave Mark and just put it up there for all of you instead of delaying this meeting even further?
Not my decision.
Do we have to vote on it?
We could get this to anyone that comes out.
This mic is pretty loud too.
Check, check, check. Yeah, this can be given to.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? No. No, other people are talking into microphones, which makes it harder to try and fix it, so. We can fix it or we can debate it. Just move away from the mics. Just use big voice of people. So, for the people that need to watch this at home, microphones are important. So if you don't want people at home to be able to see it, or have it. Come here if you want to come. It's pretty simple. You guys decide what you want me to do.
Why don't we use this mic? I don't know.
Can we use one of these mics out there?
Like, can we put this on a chair for the public to speak at? It's working. I can share mine with Jess, like I said. I think it's a pretty easy solution.
Yes, I would prefer to have this meeting recorded. It should be recorded, so I would like to move a microphone to the front on a chair. Can we do that? Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen.
All right, so now that we've got that taken care of, so I'm going to read the original article. I'm going to read the article as it was written. We will vote on that, and then we will vote on the amendment. All right, so Article 3, Operating Budget. Shall the district raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $17,312,926. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $18,371,151, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the district or by law. Or the school board may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of a revised operating budget only. Majority vote required. Estimated tax impact of $7.94 per thousand. School board recommends this appropriation 3-2. Budget committee recommends this appropriation 6-1. Note, Fund 10 equals $15,613,288. Regular operating budget. Fund 21 equals $499,638. Expenditures from food service revenues. Fund 22 equals $1,200,000, which are expenditures from federal and special revenues. Default implemented $16,671,513, which is the same as last year with certain adjustments required by previous action of the district or by law. Do I have a motion? I have a motion. Thank you, Ms. Moran. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second, Michael Moran. Thank you very much. Discussion on the motion.
Yes.
Manny, go ahead.
Manny Crasser, Reservoir Road. Did I understand you to say we're going to take a vote on this article, and then after this article was passed, we're going to take a vote to amend it? I don't, if that's what you're planning, I don't think you can do that. But I will defer to school board counsel.
is correct. Thank you, Manny.
Mr. Moderator, will you accept the amendment now?
Yes.
Make a motion to amend to reflect Mr. Campbell's earlier statement. Make a motion to amend this to specify that revenues will be offset by $7,843,183 in adequacy aid and other federal and state local revenues, and will result in a tax rate of $7.53 rather than the $7.94 that's listed on the original warrant as it was designed.
I have a second. Any, excuse me?
The school board.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? Okay.
I just have a question. Why is the default different in the bottom section than it is at the top? Can you explain the difference?
In order to get to the same number in the top for the default budget, in order to get to the same number at the top for the default budget, you would add back in the Fund 22 and Fund 21.
Okay, any other discussion on the proposed amendment? Seeing none, I shall read the article as amended for vote. Article 3, operating budget. Shall the district raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth on the budget posted with a warrant or as amended by vote of the first session for the purposes set forth therein totaling $17,312,926. Should this article be defeated, the default budget shall be $18,371,151, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action of the district or by law, or the school board may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of revised operating budget only. Majority vote required. Estimated tax impact of amended amount of $7.53 per thousand. The school board recommends this appropriation 3-2. Budget committee recommends this appropriation 6-1. Note, Fund 10 equals $15,613,288 from regular operating budget. Fund 21 equals $499,638,000 expenditures from food service revenues, and Fund 22 equals $1,200,000, which are expenditures from federal and special revenues. Default implemented $16,671,513, which is the same as last year, with certain adjustments required by previous action or the district or by law.
Well, this is just on the amendment. We then have to vote to put it on the ballot, correct?
Yes.
Prior to putting it on the ballot, I'd like to make a brief statement. But we can, it's not going to affect the amendment.
Okay. So we'll move this to vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes.
If I may, Mr. Moderator? Please. We just want to reflect that it does indicate that the school board recommended the appropriation 3-2. That vote was taken on the heels of the budget committee adding $425,000 to the budget, which the school board disagreed with at the time. The budget committee has since changed that to reflect these numbers. So it is our intention to re-vote on that, and I think I can say with certainty that you'll see a unanimous support of this budget.
Okay, thank you. Now we are going to, I'm going to read Article 3 as amended to be placed on the ballot. Article 3, shall the district raise and appropriate? I don't need to read it again. Okay. Do I have a motion to place the amended? Okay, thank you. And a second? I have many seconds. Okay. Sorry again, I said this is my first time, I apologize. All right. It was on the ballot.
You're so good, it was already done.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move to Article 4, which is the... Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, we have had the motion, we've had the second. So is there discussion on the amended article?
Yes. I just want to let people know that the original vote of the Budget Committee to add money to this budget was not done out of thin air. At the time, we had information from the different department heads of the school district. And the one from the facilities manager told us that the Siemens review, that's Siemens Engineering, showed that there was a need for replacement of control features on the heating systems of the schools. The high school is especially high on the list of control components that are needed, along with Valley View. The high school boilers are aging, and the whole pneumatic system should be upgraded. So, we also had a rather confusing report on the buses, which seemed to indicate that within the next couple of years, we need 2 new buses. And there was not enough money in any of the capital reserve funds to do that. So, for that reason, the Budget Committee added, I think it was $125,000 to the facilities line, so there'd be enough money to replace those pneumatic controls, which should allow for the heating system to last for another 4 or 5 years. That was the information we had from the facilities manager. And since it looked like there'd be a couple buses needed within the next few years, and it looks like the state budget is already in trouble, and we know that federal funding is going to be cut, and then the Department of Education may be wiped out. That initial vote of the Budget Committee was on the idea that we could add that money this year, still come in with a lower budget, and then save us that expense down a couple of years down the road when things are likely to be much tougher. That was the original vote of the Budget Committee. The school board made a further presentation in which the board members told us they weren't going to spend it even if we gave it to them, and it would just sit there for a year, and then be part of the fund balance. So at that point, the Budget Committee reversed and voted 6-1 with one person in the negative to come in with the budget that the school board recommended. But that was the sequence of what happened.
Thank you, Manny. Is there any further discussion? All right, then we're going to move to add this to the ballot as amended. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Motion to restrict. Do we have a second? Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go to vote. For the motion to restrict, do I have all those in favor, excuse me? All opposed? Motion passes. Article 4, custodian agreement. Article 4, collective bargaining agreement for custodians, to see if the district will vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Farmington School Board and the Farmington School Custodians Union, AFT-New Hampshire, NH, AFT Local Number 6212, AFL-CIO, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing level over the next 3 fiscal years. Fiscal year estimated increase 25 to 26 is an increase of $27,819.53. 2026 to 2027 is a $61,573.80 increase, and 27 to 28 is a $90,097.45 increase. Total over 3 years equals $179,490.78, and to further raise and appropriate $27,819.53 for the current fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. Majority vote required. Tax impact 17 cents per thousand over 3 years. School board recommends this appropriation 5-0. Budget committee recommends this appropriation 5-1. Do I have a motion to move this forward? Ms. Moran, thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Thank you very much. Is there discussion on this article? Mr. Brown?
Just have two questions.
Yeah, the little one.
Just have two quick questions. One is, in this bargaining unit, how many employees are contained based on the projected costs? And during this process, was there ever a study done for privatization in what money would be saved? And if so, what were those numbers?
I'm going to refer to the business manager on that.
There are 15 positions covered under the agreement, 2 maintenance positions, and the rest are custodial positions. We did at one point attempt to have some numbers come in on an outsourcing, if you will, I think is Mr. Brown's question. I don't have those numbers in front of me right now. We ended up estimating off of an older agreement because it was difficult to, with the timing of the events to generate a new agreement with the company to get the most up-to-date numbers. But there was a potential savings there as well, to be open and transparent, although it may not have been overly substantial.
Mr. Moderator, if I may.
Yes.
The savings would have been had we gone with the initial proposal by the custodial union.
Yes.
When you negotiate, a proposal is made, and then the school board looks at it and potentially counters. Once the counters were made on the initial proposal, outsourcing was not more feasible.
Yeah, I believe
Okay.
that was their target.
If I just may add, this is a group of individuals, many of whom have been here for a number of years, very, very dedicated to the Farmington School District and take great pride in what they do. I have the opportunity to work here at the high school all winter long, inviting guests to our gym and to our school throughout the winter for athletic events. And I always hear, how old is this school? Is this school like 10 years old? It was built in '96. So we're going on 30 years, and yet the cleanliness and the look that it gives to folks is that it's a much newer facility. And this is just one building I use for an example. But we have a dedicated crew, one of which was out here at 3 a.m. this morning, making sure that entrance into the school was as safe as it could be due to this inclement weather. We worked very hard. Mrs. Johnston was she was really instrumental in putting together this package, as she in her past has negotiated many contracts with different bodies of educators and school staff. And we feel that this is competitive to get people to apply. We wanted to beef up that sort of bottom step, if you will, and fair to the folks that have been here for so long and been so dedicated to the district. So we ask that you please place this on the ballot and support it. Thank you.
Michael Moran, 10 Rod Road. The 17 cents per thousand, is that based off the old evaluation of the town? Because that was my understanding that the town was valued a little over $1 billion. So this should be more like 2 to 3 cents than 17 cents. Maybe 5 cents.
Maybe it's missing the zero. Point zero.
Mr. Moderator?
2 cents.
Tax impact is projected over the 3-year period, so it's the total appropriation for 3 years. Typically, we break it down year per year by year. So the appropriation divided by the assessment divided by 1,000 will give you the correct tax impact for each year.
I get the 17 cents. Just gonna redo the math here to be sure. I get 17 cents per thousand. Yes, yeah.
If I can clarify, what I think we're asking for is what is the tax impact for 25, 26?
So, yes, I can propose an amendment and to add additional transparency there for each fiscal year estimated increase. So for 25, 26, the estimated increase would be 0.027 per thousand. 26, 27's increase would be 0.060 per thousand, and 27, 28, the increase would be 0.087 per thousand, roughly.
We have a motion and we have a second. Mary Barron, do we have any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, we will vote to approve Article 4 custodian agreement.
Vote on the amendment.
Voting on the amendment.
Approve the amendment, I'm sorry, the amendment, indicating the cost per thousand per year.
Yes.
The amount being 0.027 per thousand for years 25 to 26, 0.060 per thousand years 26 to 27, and 0.087 cents per thousand for years 27 to 28. Correct? Okay. Seeing no discussion, we'll vote. All in favor of the amendment? Thank you. All opposed? Motion passes for the amendment. Okay, so now we will vote, or we will go through Article 4 as amended for the custodian agreement. Article 4, collective bargaining agreement, custodians, to see if the district will vote to approve the cost of items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Farmington School Board and the Farmington School Custodians Union, AFT New Hampshire, AFT Local Number 6212, AFL-CIO, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing level over the next 3 fiscal years. Fiscal year estimated increase 25 to 26 is $27,819.53, which is 0.027 cents per thousand. 2026 to 2027 is $61,573.80, which is 0.060 per thousand. 20 to 27 to 2028 is $90,097.45, which is 0.07 cents per thousand. Total over 3 years, $179,490.78. and to further raise and appropriate $27,819.53 for the current fiscal year, such sum representing the additional cost attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels. Majority vote required, which is 0.17 cents per thousand over 3 years. School board recommends this appropriation 5-0. Budget committee recommends this appropriation 5-1.
Can I make a friendly amendment to strike the .17 per thousand?
So I have a second on that? Okay. What's that?
The seconder of she's making a friendly amendment. So the seconder, and he's nodding that he's, okay.
Yes. So we have a second on that. So, all in favor of that friendly amendment?
Friendly amendment.
All opposed. Point of order.
Fred Redmond, Ridge Road Budget Committee. Could you reread the actual numbers for the increase? I heard .017 cents.
No.
That's only
No.
1,000th of a penny. Nope. I suspect it should be 0. Or 0.23 or whatever it was, not .023.
Yeah, yeah, that's correct.
It's
Yeah, I mean, it's. Well, I heard .02.
It's .02.
Cents instead of $0.027 cents.
It is, it's 2 cents.
It
It's
is.
2 cents.
It is.
0.027
2 cents, 6 cents, 8
per
cents.
thousand.
Rounds up to 3 cents. 2.7 cents.
It rounds up, but to get to the 1.7, you gotta use those numbers, so we're not rounding today.
I'm just looking at the math, and you say either 2.7 cents or .0.
It's just, Fred, it's just how you get to the
My apologies.
the .17.
Dollars. You're correct. I will reread it that way. Okay? All right, I'm going to reread that and correct it. My apologies on that. Custodian, Article 4, Custodian Agreement. Article 4, Collective Bargaining Agreement, Custodians, to see if the district will vote to approve the cost items included in the collective bargaining agreement reached between the Farmington School Board excuse me, and the Farmington School Custodians Union, AFT-NH, AFT Local 6212, AFL-CIO, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at the current staffing level over the next fiscal years. Fiscal year estimated increase 2025 to 2026 is $27,819.53, which is $0.027 per thousand. 2026 to 2027 is $61,573.80, which is $0.060 per thousand. 2027 to 28 is $90,097.45, which is $0.087 per thousand. Total over 3 years is $179,490.78. And to further raise the appropriate $27,819.53 for the current fiscal year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in salaries and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current staffing levels, majority vote required. School board recommends this appropriation 5-0. Budget committee recommends this appropriation 5-1. Okay, so no discussion. We'll move to vote. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. All right, moving to Article 5, which is special meeting. Oh, actually, we can skip. Can we read? Okay.
We have an amendment for that.
Article 5, special meeting. Shall the school district, if warrant Article 4 is defeated, authorize the governing body to call one special meeting at its option to address warrant Article 4 cost items only. Majority vote required. Go ahead. Motion to move to the ballot? We
Mr.
have a
Moderator,
yes.
you read the corrected version that we're going to propose an amendment for.
Oh. My apologies. Let's go back. I read the correction.
Yeah.
let's get it on the floor and then get an amendment.
He read the wrong
Right,
version
right,
of
right.
it.
I read it, I read the corrected, so my apologies. Let me reread as originally written. Article 5, special meeting, shall the school district, if warrant Article 5 is defeated, authorize the governing body to call one special meeting at its option to address warrant Article 5 cost items only. Motion on the, do I have a motion?
It's four.
I have a motion.
It's four.
So we're gonna,
We're going to amend.
We're going to
That's
discuss
what
it.
we're gonna amend.
Okay, so I have a second. Do we have discussion?
we're gonna propose an amendment to change the 05 to 04 in both both instances in this article. So if warrant Article 4 is defeated, and to address warrant Article 4 cost items only.
Okay. All in favor? All opposed? Okay. Amendment passes. All right, so now I shall read it as amended. I don't have to?
If they don't want you to,
I don't have to reread it? Okay. As amended, article passes. Oh. Rookie mistake. Okay, yeah. All right. We are going to move to vote on the amended article. Any discussion? No. Okay. All those in favor? All opposed? Article passes as amended. Okay, moving on to Article 6, which is the Special Education Expendable Trust. Shall the district vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be added to the Special Education Expendable Trust previously established? This sum is to come from the June 30, 2025 fund balance available for transfer on July 1st, 2025. No amounts to be raised from taxation. The balance of the Special Education Expendable Trust Fund as of December 31st, 2024 is $222,499.01. Majority vote is required on this. The school board recommends this appropriation 5-0. Budget committee recommends this appropriation 7-0. Do I have a motion? A motion, and I have a second.
these are those names.
Any discussion on this article?
You should just be.
Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Okay, and we move to our final article, Article 7. Thank you. Article 7 by petition. Shall we adopt the provisions of RSA 32:5B and implement a tax cap whereby the governing body or budget committee shall not submit a recommended budget that increases the amount to be raised by local taxes based on the prior fiscal year's actual amount of local taxes raised by more than $250,000. We need 3/5 majority vote required. School board does not recommend this Article 024. Do I have a motion on the floor? Motion by Mr. Moran. Do I have a second? I have a second. Okay, moving to discussion.
Is the petitioner in the building to explain where he came up with his figures, or she?
That's a good question.
Going to speak briefly because the subject matter of the warrant article is prescribed by law and subject to a public hearing. It wasn't my petition article. A group of taxpayers asked me to present it because they're not familiar with the process. So what this does is it creates a level of transparency between the school board and the budget committee in presenting cost items to this legislative body. How it does that is it still retains this legislative body's authority at the deliberative session to change that budget as presented by the budget committee. What it allows for is when two buses at 300,000 are placed in the budget versus a warrant article, then it allows the taxpayers to see transparently what those increases are and vote at the deliberative session and then at the ballot on whether that tax cap is overwritten. So that's the brief statement of it. But it is a petition with the language prescribed by law, and this has to move forward in the format that it is to the ballot. If a taxpayer thinks it's too low, they vote no. If a taxpayer thinks it's a correct number, they vote yes, and 3/5 of the majority voting on that question determines whether this moves forward.
Ms. Moore?
Is that language including the number that's in here at $250,000? Or is that, or 200, yes. Or is that something at this level that can be changed today? It can be changed today? Thank you. That one doesn't work.
For the record, for DRA, the RSA that controls this meeting is RSA 4013. The RSA that allows us to create a tax cap is listed in the warrant article. Section C after is the provisions on how you do it. The state legislature has said the wording on the warrant article shall indicates quotation marks, defines the language including insert the value here, and ends the language in quotation marks after that value presented. So I would submit to this legislative body that that number can't be amended by law because the RSA 4013 prescribes the process as anything prescribed by law can't be changed. The legislative intent, including those quotation marks, is that that number be put forward to the ballot. Additionally, the legislative body, because of that, took an additional step that we see nowhere else and required a public hearing on this warrant article prior to the election. So if the ruling of legal counsel is that it can be amended, I just want a clear record so that when it gets appealed to DRA, they understand that it can't. If those quotation marks were not after the presented dollar amount, I would say you're 100% correct, and the legislature is capable of doing that, but they didn't. And we are not a home rule state, and we can only do what the legislative body of our representatives in Concord allow us to do. So those quotation marks are very specific and very direct. Thank you.
I disagree. The language is prescribed. Sorry, can you hear me now? The language itself is prescribed. The amount can be changed on the floor. Like I said, it can be a dollar amount or a percentage.
I respect your decision. It's just, I want a record for the appeal.
Stephen Henry Ridge Road. At the public hearing, I asked specifically, I think, about collective bargaining agreements, where we've got one on the ballot now, where we vote, and this year we'll vote for approximately $30,000 for the custodian's contract. That $30,000 gets added to the approved budget. However, subsequent years, what we voted on in March gets added to the general operating fund. So looking just at the custodial contract going out 2 years, that's $90,000. Does that $90,000 go against that $250,000 tax cap? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But
So,
that's
wait,
for the
we'd
25-26
have to
year.
appropriate the following amounts.
After that, that gets added to the general operating fund. So now we're starting with that $250,000 tax cap. We're taking off $90,000 for the custodians, which is the smallest of three CBAs? Of the three CBAs. So some years you're going to have teachers in there, some years you'll have paras in there. You won't have all three at once because you're always voting on one of them the way that it has been going. So that $250,000 tax cap gets eroded very quickly by CBAs we approved in previous years that get added to the general fund. So, and this is also based on the local taxation amount. Like it or not, when federal revenue goes down, when state revenue goes down, that burden gets placed on the local taxpayer. And as we know, that shifts from year to year, every 2 years, every 4 years, what that looks like. So we may get hit with a year where we're sucking up another $500,000, $1 million locally because other revenue sources have dried up. And the way this article is written, that can't happen. Understanding how schools work and how funding works and how the law works, the employees are always going to get paid. The law says you got to pay your employees. Special education is going to get paid for, it's going to get funded. Law says you got to pay for that. What's left? Athletics, general education, busing for high school students. You really start chipping away at the things that affect most students but aren't necessarily mandated by law. The deliberative session is the tax cap. If we don't like the budget that's being presented, this is where we can control it. This warrant is asking us to somewhat give up that power, because what we're going to get is budgets based on the tax cap, not based on the wants and needs of the school system. That tax cap has to be kept in mind because that dictates what they can present to us. And then we get random proposals without supporting information and backup from people on the floor to increase that back to what the voters want it to be. I prefer to get a budget that's well thought out from the school board, from the budget committee, and then if we have issue with it and they're spending too much money, this is where we scale them back. This is a death spiral that can't keep up with inflation and the collective bargaining agreements that we agree with. If I'm incorrect, I'd love for somebody to explain it. Thank you.
My comment's going to be much shorter than I thought it would be. I second everything Steve Henry said. By the way, Manny Krasner, Reservoir Road. I second everything Steve Henry said. He was absolutely right. I would only add that this is, if you do this, you're not just giving up the power, you're giving up a piece of democracy. The essence of this meeting is that we get to vote. We can reduce the budget, we can increase the budget. Why put handcuffs on ourselves when we are the voters? The other thing I want to address is the transparency. I think everybody here has seen today, we have got transparency. There was some disagreement between the budget committee and the school board. You heard about it. The budget committee has gone over the school board budget line by line. This meeting, anybody could ask any questions they want. Putting a cap on something does not increase transparency. All it does is put a cap on and tie the hands of this meeting. I don't see why we should tie our hands.
Mr. Moderator, at the conclusion of my speaking, I'd like counsel to kick in to make sure that I'm expressing an accurate representation to this body on what the RSA actually allows us to do. First of all, when we're talking about can't increase the budget more than $250,000. Last year we spent $14,600,000, and $1.9 million was in fund balance. That $1.9 million, or the portion of that $1.9 million that was used to reduce taxation, goes back on top of what we spent. Plus that number will go up an additional $250,000 buffer allowed under the tax cap. The other thing that the tax cap legislation does is it does not restrict, this is almost verbatim, correct me if I'm wrong, please, does not restrict any authority of this legislative session. So if the deliberative body is presented with, instead of 36 pages of what we want to spend on, if they're commanded to sell how our tax dollars are being spent, this legislative body, if I'm not mistaken, has the power and effect to say, okay, that makes sense. All this is a different way to present to this body. And I'll tell you why a lot of these taxpayers want this, is during the budget committee process, and you'll see the video later on, the statement was made, no, don't put those in a warrant article, because one of the budget committee members wanted the taxpayer to decide. They won't pass. Put them in the general operating budget. That's not the way to present to this legislative session. Thank you.
Yeah, that's mostly accurate. Yeah.
How do we go forward to, if we wanted to amend that number? Because by petition, it has to go to the ballot. Do we increase that number? But if a tax cap of 0, then I'm going to make the amendment to change the number to 0.
Second.
We have a second?
Well, the cap is 0, which means there is no cap, is my understanding. I'm going to ask for an opinion from legal on that, but I believe setting that cap at 0 means there is no limit. Well, we become the limit again at deliberative. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, that sounds really counterintuitive to me, because if you're still adopting, if they say yes, they're adopting a tax cap of 0, which means you can't add anything. No, you can't. This has to go to the ballot. This has
Right. If the cap is $0,
Yes.
to me, that would be
That
no
means
cap.
it's 0.
No, $1 would be a limit of $1. 0 is a limit of no dollars. There is no limit.
No, they can raise 0 in addition.
Well, this is why I'm asking legal.
Yeah.
She's making a face. For the record, Tim, I don't know if you heard her. She did say you were mostly right. She wasn't mic'd at the time, so.
It's 0 is 0. You'd have to put
A cap of 0 to me is no cap.
That's right.
Right, no cap, not no increase.
That's right. No, it's not. A cap of 0 means you cannot add, this way,
Right.
you can't add more than 250. 0 is 0.
What to order,
Or if you want to,
Mr. Moderator? We need to.
if you make it 10 million, it'll just lose it for election.
That's not good.
I'll,
Were you my second?
yeah, so that's why.
Well, wait. Because it still goes to
Just say 2 things, Moderator.
All right, I'm going to propose we take a recess so that a phone call can be made to clarify the up and down limits of this and the impact. Second. Thank you. So we'll recess for 15 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And the PTA does have donuts and coffee in the cafeteria.
Let's reconvene at 11 o'clock sharp. All right, thank you, everybody, for allowing us that recess as we research this a little bit. So I think, Ms. Moran, you have the floor.
I would like to amend the motion to insert the dollar amount of $1 million.
A motion, and I have a second to increase the amount in the proposed Article 7 to $1 million. Do we have
Moderator,
discussion on that? Yes.
I'm not supposed to directly converse with Mrs. Moran, so I'll go through you. Is the thought behind that to put such a high number on that it would get voted down at the ballot?
Ms. Moran, could you address that question, please?
Yes.
If I may, my thought as the one who seconded it is, if it does pass, my years of experience on the budget committee and knowing your process, it does give you the room you need to present a full budget. It's-
Second? No. She amended her motion.
So, as I was saying, my thought was the $1 million is enough to allow you to present a reasonable budget, and then this body here can decide whether you've overspent or not. But I don't think it ties your hands to present what you really need.
Brittany Whittick, Governor's Road. I just want to point out that $250,000 is 1.5%, and with the cost of inflation, with everything we're seeing right now, like eggs go up by 1.5% any given month. The practicality of that is, it just seems really unreasonable to me. With the $1 million, I don't really like any cap. I think that we vote in our school board officials and we vote in our budget committee in a way that we trust them to make these calls, to be responsible with budgets. But if we are going to have one, I agree that $1 million is more practical. It's still, what is that, 5%, which is kind of scary on any given day. But I just, to the point of whether or not it gets voted down, if you're going to vote for it, at least make it enough that we can operate on if we have to.
Hold on. Tim stood up.
Oh, I thought you got up there.
Well.
The last fiscal year we closed, we had $1.9 million in the bank. Change to this petition warrant article by changing it to $1 million brings that number to $2.9 million. That's $3 per thousand on your tax rate, folks.
To Mr. Brown's point, 1.9 million was this year's. We're not always going to have that. So in conversing with Stephen, and I definitely agree with Ms. Whittick, that this body should be the one who brings forward what they need for the budget.
The big thing everybody should understand is that when the school board crafted this budget, they targeted last year's actual, or the last full year's actual spending, and tried to bring it down, this year's budget down closer to the actual spending, so there would not be such a big fund balance in the future. And that was discussed at great length in front of the Budget Committee during the various Budget Committee meetings, at which most of the speakers here were in attendance. So you can't just say, oh, well, there was a lot of money last year, because that's exactly what the school board tried to avoid. I personally felt that they went too far, and they've cut it pretty close, and I hope they make it. But you're not going to be looking at the same kind of big fund balance with this budget that you have in the past. And the other thing I would say is that whether something's put in the budget or whether it's put in a warrant article, it's out in the open. It's plain, it's there for people to see and make judgments on. There's no reason this body or anybody in this town should put themselves in handcuffs with something like a budget cap, which won't let you react to the future.
I have a question about some comments that were made previously. I may have misunderstood the point of a tax cap. So does implementing a tax cap obligate the school district to spend that money or obligate the town to collect those taxes? Because that's how it was presented is, well, now they're going to have $2.9 million in the bank, which would make me wonder why we want to add even $250,000 to that number if that's the fact. I didn't think a tax cap obligated spending or the raising of revenue.
I don't believe it would. No.
Does not.
Oh, okay, I must have misunderstood. Thank you.
So Mr. Krasner talked about the 1.9 million last year and how they cut their budget in spending. They didn't cut their budget because out of that $1.9 million, $700,000 of fund balance went to capital reserve and trust accounts. So it didn't impact the educational budget or the educational spending $1. I don't think a tax cap ties this legislative bodies. In fact, I didn't officially hear from legal, but I would like to hear from legal that if a tax cap is passed, this deliberative session gives up zero authority that they already hold. All the tax cap does is gives both bodies a goal to come in with a number, and if they need more, to justify those increases to the legislative body. For instance, if the school board comes to me as a taxpayer and says, I need to increase my budget by $500,000 to increase our efficiency and to do this for the students, I'm going to vote yes. So all this is doing is making the school board and the budget committee a better salesperson to the ordinary taxpayer who doesn't have a master's degree in finance and can't understand 36 pages of a line item budget. It's selling this to the taxpayer on why we need to get better. And Mr. Moderator, if I could have that from council, if that's okay.
Could you, there was a lot there, could you just restate your question for us, please?
My question to council is, if the tax cap goes forward as written, does that restrict any authority of the deliberative session?
Thank you. Okay, so council believes that the best way to handle this would be to provide an opinion after the meeting, to provide more information after the meeting. So this would move forward, you would vote as amended for the $1 million to move forward onto the ballot, and then the voters would vote in the voting box to either approve or not approve.
My question to the moderator is, regardless of what number is in this warrant article, does it impact any powers provided under law to this legislative body?
It does not.
Okay, So we can hear that it does not. That is the official legal opinion.
Yep.
That's all I want. So regardless of what's in here, next year, if the school board says I need $1 million, we can give it to them. Thank you.
Motion to call the question.
Manny, no? Okay. Motion to call the question. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right. Motion to call the question. All in favor?
Of calling the question.
Call that question. All opposed? On the amendment? All opposed? Okay. Okay, I will reread the article as amended. Oh, sorry, we have to vote on the amendment. Sorry, my apologies. All right, do we have any other discussion on? No. Call the question.
Doing good, David.
All right, so we're going to vote now on the amended amount of $1 million. All those in favor? All opposed? The motion passes. No, there was more yeas. Yep. Yep. Okay, so now we will vote on the article as amended. If there is no further discussion? Seeing none, I shall reread, just so that we're all clear, what the amended article says. Shall we adopt the provisions of RSA 32(5)(b) and implement a tax cap whereby the governing body or budget committee shall not submit a recommended budget that increases the amount to be raised by local taxes based on the prior year fiscal's actual amount of local taxes raised by more than $1 million at the voter box, 3/5 majority votes required. The school board does not recommend this article 0 to 4. Okay, so now we're going to vote on the amended article. All those in favor? All opposed? I've got 15 to 10. Can I get a count? Can we count? It's pretty close. All right, I'm going to do a hand count because that was pretty close, and I just want to make sure that my numbers goes to the ballot either.
The $1 million.
The amendment.
The amendment to the $1 million.
We have to put some numbers forward. We've got to agree on something.
All right, so I'm going to do a hand count here. So can everybody who is in favor please raise your cards? Okay, thank you. And all opposed? Okay, ayes are 16, nays are 7. That motion passes as amended. I have a motion and a second to restrict consideration. All those in favor? All opposed? Motion passes. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? I have motion and stand by before we
Stay
adjourn.
there for 1 minute. I just wanted to remind people, when you go into the ballot booth and you look at Article 3 and you say, oh my good, $17 million. First of all, the town's only responsible for roughly 8 million of that to begin with. And if you vote no because you hate that $17 million number, enough people do it, you're going to get default budget, which is $1,058,000 higher than the first number that you didn't like. Just throwing that out there. Be careful. When you go in, vote numbers, not panic attack. Secondly, I'd like to thank everyone who put as much work into this year's work as they did. It's been a contentious year. It's been a long year. And Ms. Plourde, yeah, great job. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
over here. Can I just, may I add one thing?
Please.
There were several of you during the meeting today that were quick to point out when the moderator made a slight mistake in procedure of the meeting. Several of you know how these meetings run and how they should run. It is my understanding, Mr. Plourde, you're not rerunning for this position because of a change in work schedule. Please run a write-in campaign and become the school moderator if you have time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we have motion to adjourn. All right. All in favor of adjourn?
Aye.
All right, we're out. Thank you.